Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make a loom. Now I know that you're going to be getting your own looms and you're not going to, and they're already going to be put together for you. You're not going to need to make yours. But just like always, I want you to know how to put the loom together. So if you want to do this at home on your own, you can. So you're going to get 5 pipe cleaners and 5 straws. And I am twisting the ends of my pipe cleaners together. And then I'm going to stick the straws onto the pipe cleaners. Now you could use yarn for this rather than pipe cleaners and stick the yarn through, but I find that the pipe cleaners are easier to stick through the straws. I also think that it's easier because the pipe cleaners are more rigid and they're not as wiggly. They don't move around as much. So it's a lot easier to handle your loom when you have pipe cleaners rather than yarn. Now, of course, that means that we are limited by the size of the pipe cleaners. So we are going to be making bookmarks out of these. Maybe some of you with really small wrists are going to be able to use them as bracelets. I can't use it as a bracelet. It's too small for that for me, but for some of you guys might be able to do that. So I have my straws on my pipe cleaner, and now I'm going to take a piece of tape and I'm going to line up my straws right next to each other, and I'm going to tape the straws together, and then I'm going to wrap the tape around the knot of the pipe cleaners, and this is what I'm going to write my name on during class. This next clip is going to show you how to weave your straw yarn. So we're going to do yarn straw weaving today. You're going to get your yarn. It's going to look like this. It's got the tape at the top. We're going to write our names right here, and it's got yarn already around it. So what you're going to do is you're just going to unwrap the yarn, all right? And this is going to be your first piece of yarn. I've already attached it to your straw. Okay, so you can see that there's 5 straws and they have pipe cleaners inside of them, okay? And it's tied on there. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna weave it, and it's gonna be just like paper weaving. You're gonna go under, over, okay? So I'm gonna take my piece of yarn and I'm gonna go under, over, under, all right? You see that? And you can see that I wove it, right? But then with paper weaving, you would go back to the front and you would do it again, right? But look what happens if I go back to the front. Does that look like nice weaving? No. No, it does not look like nice weaving. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this piece of yarn and we're gonna wrap it around this last one. And now that one's gonna be over. And then you're gonna go under, over, back the other way. All right? Okay. Just like that. And you can see that the weaving is happening both directions. So then you're going to take this and you're going to wrap it around. That part's important because if I don't wrap it around and I just try to weave it back the other way, it's just going to undo all of my weaving, right? So you got to wrap it around this last one. If you don't wrap it around and you start going back this way, then you'll miss an entire section of your weaving. And if you try to weave it back the way you came, it'll just undo it, right? So wrap it around that last one and then go under, over, all right? Now you can see that when that happens, the weaving is kind of crazy. So you want to push it like that to make it all kind of go together. And like I said, under, over. Now you'll notice that I'm holding this in my hand, right? For some people, that's the easiest way to do it. For some people, the easiest way to do it is to hold the tape together part and to weave it through like this. All right, and then push it down when they're done. That's the easiest for some people. And if you find that easiest, great. Oh, I forgot to wrap it around and I was starting to undo what I was doing. All right, so if that's the easiest for you is to hold it by the tape and to weave it like this, that's great. But for some people, the easiest way to do this is actually to tape it to the table. All right, that way they don't have to hold it at all and they can just focus on weaving through. And if that's the case for you, just let me know and I'll get you a piece of tape, okay? But every time you do it, you wanna make sure you're wrapping it around and you're going under, over, and then you're wrapping it around again. Now, You want to make sure that you're pulling it so that it's not super loose, because if it's crazy loose like that, is that going to make a good weaving?
No.
No, that's not going to make a good weaving. But when you pull it through, you want to make sure that you're not pulling it super tight, because are you going to be able to weave it really well if your straws are super tight like this?
No.
No, it's going to get really confusing. Your straws need to be laying next to each other while you're weaving. If you pull it too tight and they're not laying next to each other, you're going to have a hard time. So you're going to make sure that you pull it tight so it's not loose, but not so tight that you can't weave. Understood?
Understood.
And you're just going to go through, you're going to under, over. You might reach a point where you run out of string, in which case you're going to get a new piece of yarn. I have those already cut for you. All right. Now, if you know how to tie a knot, you could tie a knot to your old piece of string. You have to leave enough. I would leave about that much so that you have space to actually tie it. All right. So like that's enough to weave through. But if you have a teeny tiny little piece hanging off like that, you're not going to be able to tie a knot on it. Right. So I would leave about that much so that you can tie a knot. If you already know how. Am I going to tie 1,000 knots?
No.
I don't have time for that. If you know how to tie a knot, you could also do what I did, and you could tie it to your first straw, just like that, and you could start weaving from there. Or if you don't know how to tie a knot, or you can't find somebody who's willing to tie a knot for you, you can take it and you can hold it and you can just start weaving while you're holding it with your other hand. And after you get a couple of rows of weaving done, you don't have to hold it anymore and it'll just stay. All right? And then we can tie it at the end. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Now, if you do that, again, you might have to tighten it back up a little bit. But are you going to pull it super tight?
No.
No. Okay, so as I said, once you've got a couple of rows woven, the fact that this isn't tied, it really doesn't matter. Same with this. The fact that it's not tied is fine. Once you have a couple of rows woven, if you want to scooch it up like that, you can, and you can see that the weaving looks really nice, and you have more space to weave. Now, if you get to the bottom of your straws, just let me know and we can loosen up, and there's no way to shove it back up to the top. We can loosen up the straws from the tape, and we can just scooch them on down to the bottom of the pipe cleaners so that we can keep weaving till we get to the bottom, and then we'll take the straws all the way out and we'll twist the end together and we'll have a nice little bookmark of weaving. Okay, but for right now I think I'm done for the day, so I'm going to take it and I'm going to very gently just wrap the yarn around. Notice I'm not squeezing it all together because that could get really confusing and it could mess up the way that my straws are. So I'm just going to really gently wrap it around and then turn it in. Now, the next class, you're going to pick it up and you want to make sure that you unwrap this part and you don't just start weaving under it, because that won't look nice. So make sure that you unwrap it and then start weaving again the next class. All right?